at a steady number. And so I will send it over to the team who will be presenting today. I'm Ann Ellis, by the way, if you don't know me. We also have Shannon on the team from our marketing team, and so we'll be taking down the Q&A. But these are our lovely hosts here, and I'll send it over to Jeremiah to conduct introductions.
All right. Thank you, Ann, and thank you everyone for joining us today. If you hit the next slide, talk through what we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited to give a community update. We are also going to chat through the 2024 pricing that we rolled out at the end of the year and answer any questions there. Domenico is going to talk about cold weather use, and many of us are in wintry places right now. I'm about to head somewhere that's 30 below zero, and I'm a little bit nervous. So he's going to give us some tips on how to handle the cold weather with the sleeve. And then we're going to talk through a bit of the upcoming AMA schedule, and then answer any questions that you have. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm super excited to share a big milestone for us. As many of you know, we started shipping our neural sleeve in January, just a year ago. So we haven't quite hit 1 year yet, and the community is already 1,000 people strong. When we first started, and I talked about what we were going to build in terms of a revolutionary innovation in mobility technology that would be an FDA-cleared Class 2 medical device, and that we were going to launch it to the community and build 1,000-person audience. Most of the people have been best case after the first year, you'll be about 150 people. So I thought they were wrong, and I'm glad to have all of the support of this community to say, nope, we are strong as a community, and we're learning as a community. And this is just the tip of the iceberg as to what is possible for us together. So next slide, please. The really exciting part is those 1,000 people have worn our sleeves for 400,000 hours. If you think about what that means and what's different from most medical devices out there in the world, this means we have a really strong understanding of how people use this in their real lives. I often tell the story about my daughter, Sophia, and how we did therapy. We did functional electrical stimulation for approximately 20 minutes once a week. We would go and we would get gait analysis done, and it would be an hour setup and then 10 paces along. This is real world information, world experiences that we can continue to better understand our customers' needs, how the sleeves are being used, what the desires of the community are, and continue to improve the product. And that's one of the commitments that we think is so important as someone building a solution within healthcare to continue to learn and improve. We also, next slide, please. We've also heard amazing adventures from this community. We get many quotes from folks about how it's helping, dorsiflexion, helping them walk. But what I really love is how people are sharing their adventures with us, whether that's going on a vacation. It's this first quote, couple quotes to Alaska, to Quebec City, how people are styling their sleeve with clothing, how they're interacting with their family, even the mundane tasks that many people take for granted, like shopping, that they're able to accomplish these tasks in a way that they haven't for a while. And we talk a lot about what experiences people thought might have been closed to them, and the fact that they're seeing them open up again. And this is something that, again, I look forward to a year from now to see all of the adventures that people are having with our sleeves. So a huge thank you to all of the community, all of our early adopters, folks all the way back 2 years ago who put their faith in us to bring this to the world, and who have helped us to improve it as we've moved along. I want to talk a little bit about pricing and what's changed. We rolled out new pricing. There were a lot of questions early on. And I'm going to go through it. And I'll start, if you flip to the next slide. And why, Jeremiah, are you so passionate about pay-as-you-go, all-inclusive pricing? And I thought I'd start with the story of how I got here, which is 1 year before I started this company, I bought a thing for Sophia. That thing was a functional electrical stimulator. I was so excited about it. I remember when we went and had it fitted and them telling me all of the amazing things it would do for Sophia, and we paid $8,000 up front for that device. And it the right thing. And I, called their customer care and wanted to understand what we could do to improve it. But what I realized is when you pay for a thing, right, that company just wanted to keep all the money for the thing, but they weren't really incentivized to provide any ongoing support, ongoing improvement. And it's not really the way I think healthcare should be paid for. When we think about a drug or pharmaceutical, right? You can start out and you'll pay for a few months. And we saw this with Empyra, which is a pharmaceutical that I would imagine many in this community are familiar with. And the way that it was paid for was, let's do a 3-month trial. And if it works, if you're getting the results that you want to see, then pay for more. And I thought, you know what, this is right. This is the way healthcare should be paid for. And so how can we create a product that includes everything you need to be successful? Is this paying for a thing or paying for a service, paying for results? And this is how we started, and we put a big bet on this. And obviously we're taking a lot of risk as a company to put a device out there that costs a lot of money, and maybe it won't work for people. And we see that. But we wanted to say, give them the opportunity, give people the opportunity to try it. And if it doesn't work, they can send it back. And we had really strong confidence in our product and our team and our ability to deliver a high quality service that would produce results. And if it didn't, we didn't want people paying for that. And so this idea of pay-as-you-go, all-inclusive pricing, we felt was better for the users, ultimately was more attractive to payers. And that's still on the come while we have these conversations, but everybody says the same. We don't like medical device because we pay all this money up front for a user, but we don't know if it's going to work. And can you get it to something where we're paying for results? So that was the thesis that we went into. And if we flip to the next slide, we can look at where we were in December before we launched. We had 2 cohorts. We had pre-launch adopters, people who had signed up before we even had a product in market. And that pricing was 12 monthly payments of $200. And we said, look, we don't know what year 2 pricing is going to be. Bear with us. Thank you for taking the risk with us. As soon as we learn enough about how to run this service, we'll do that pricing. And then we had the early adopters. After our first set of shipments in April, we reopened orders, $200 down, 12 monthly payments at $200. So pay as you go, all inclusive pricing. And then in December, numbers looked at what does it cost to continue to deliver this service? And can we do it on an all-inclusive basis? Was this thesis that we had where we send a device to someone's home, they use it sight unseen, they return it if it's not working for them? What does that, what do the numbers look like? So if we flip to the next slide, we can see where we landed. So it cost us a little bit more to run the service than our initial pricing. Everybody's probably tired of hearing what is going on with inflation in the world, but our costs were a little bit more than we expected. And so for 2024 customers, that price is a little bit higher, but we were able to make monthly all-inclusive pricing work. We ran the numbers and we said, this can continue to work. So people can get the service they need, the electrodes they need, repairs that they need. And so for everybody, once they pass that initial 12 months, monthly payments of $120. And then as an added thank you for our pre-launch adopters and our early adopters, we're going to discount the first 6 months. And one of the things we heard from people who were joining us early said, maybe can we unbundle the service? I mean, I do value the time with my mobility specialist. It's great that I can get the electrodes that I need when I want it. Software updates, new content, this is all great, but can we unbundle the service? And we said, you know what, like our goal is to be as responsive as we can while we can, with the intent of building a sustainable long-running business. And we said, yes, we can. So if you flip to the next slide, for these early adopters, pre-launch and early adopters, we said, look, let's enable an option where people can pick the pieces of the service that they want, a la carte, after their first 12 months with us. So for electrode gel pads, we'll have a year of data with you. You'll know how often you're changing those electrode pads. You choose your schedule, choose the quantity. As you order more, sort of a little bit of a discount as we order more electrodes per time. With Psionic Care, we do think this is a huge value. This is something that we really focus on, providing high quality customer care, answering questions when they come in, but tuning the system as your mobility needs change, and bringing new exercise content and programming content. So it's not mandatory, but you can choose that as part of your a la carte option as well. And then warranty. So extended warranty for additional 12 months. And you have to choose the warranty at the point in time where you switch to the a la carte. So that's the a la carte options. Right now, we are not extending that to 2024 customers. We're going to monitor it, see how well it works out. And decide. So for the 2024 customers, you will be the all-inclusive pricing will be the second year option and beyond. Next slide, please. Dual leg sleeves. We learned a little bit about that. There was I would say more customers were opting into dual sleeves than we initially expected. And when we had initially rolled it out, it was, you want to buy a second sleeve, it costs the same amount as the first sleeve. What we've learned is that we can support dual sleeve users with a little bit more cost efficiency than 2x the price. And then there's a little bit of a, hey, look, I want this second sleeve. Is does it really cost the full amount of the first sleeve? So we ran the numbers and we're able to keep the second sleeve at the $200 down and $200 a month. And then on the all-inclusive second year pricing and beyond, $80 per month. And again, for the second sleeve, if you are one of our early adopters, we'll make a la carte options available to you. Next slide, please. Just one other thing that people had asked us for: spare parts. Some people wanted to be able to travel and have an extra battery pack. They wanted to be able to have a different color sleeve or even change sleeves. And so we have these available should people want to buy them. They're a one-time cost and they both carry a 12-month warranty. Next slide, please. So I'm going to answer some Q&A now. People can put their questions in the chat for anything on the pricing side before we go into the other sections. But I'm just going to answer these first questions while Anne pulls together the additional questions. So can I still cancel anytime? Yes. Again, pay as you go. I don't think people should be paying for something that's not working for them. How long is my early adopter pricing locked in? So for all users, that price that they came in on for the first 12 months is locked in for the first 12 months. After that, when we move to the second year all-inclusive or the a la carte, the prices will adjust. You know, if we look at what's happening, the things are getting more expensive in the world. Maybe there's a little bit of relief. Maybe we won't have to raise prices. That's my hope, is that we're at a place where it's pretty steady for a while. Can I switch between all-inclusive and a la carte pricing? Just once. So once you switch from all-inclusive to a la carte, you'll stay on a la carte. And that's just keeps it simpler for us. It's difficult for us to predict what happens if people are switching back and forth. If I'm not enrolled in the all-inclusive program or Cyonic Care, will I get software updates? Software updates, yes. So we'll continue to provide software updates. The piece that you won't have access to because you don't have access to the mobility specialist is new exercises and new content programming. That's in the way in which we roll these out is making sure that they're appropriate for the customers, and that goes through the mobility team. Can I pause my subscription? Yes, we are allowing for people to pause. One of the things that we learned is that there are certain events that happen in people's lives. Oftentimes, unfortunately, it's, you know, I had to go into a hospital for a procedure, had some accident. Can I pause my subscription so I'm not paying for it while I'm not using it? So we are allowing for a pause. It's once per year, up to 3 months. Is that correct? 2 months, up to 2 months. So once a year, up to 2 months. Can I get repairs if I do not choose a warranty? Yes. If you have a repair that needs to happen, you'll send us the sleeve. We will give you a quote on what that repair will cost, and then if you approve the cost, we will repair. And that's you know, that's typical of past warranties or products past their warranties. Is the referral program still active? Yes. Can 2024 purchasers choose a la carte? Not right now. So again, we're going to see how the a la carte works. So for 2024 customers, the year 2 all-inclusive pricing is the only option that will be available. We will reassess at the end of this year before any of the 2024 customers come up for their second year. And what other questions do we have?
Yeah, so the main question for this section, so there aren't really any outstanding questions. Let's see, so if I joined before 2024, will my price of $200 stay the same? Yes, it will. And then there was a question to say, curious about, you know, we mentioned about the improvements that we make through software. Can you just highlight some of the features and exercises and programs we introduced this year as a result of our community feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big exercise release that we had earlier this year was focused on pre-gait training. So there were 2 exercises that we added there. One was swing assist, and that is something that we see with a number of our patients or users, especially ones that have extensor patterns, extensor synergies, where quad activation, so the extension of the knee through swing phase, also triggers a pointing of the toe. So that exercise is really aimed at breaking that extensor pattern, getting the body to extend the knee, but also lift the toe. The other one was rockers, and rockers is the training of plantar flexion followed by dorsiflexion. And this is really critical at the end of the stance phase of gait, where you're transitioning from pushing off, propelling the body forward, to then lifting the toes to clear. So that was the big focus of our pre-gait training release. We also did, from a feature perspective, the big release was around history and metrics. So, you know, gait speed and activity metrics to help people understand sort of how they're progressing with the system. We've also introduced early in the year a couple of new gait programs. So as we learn new specific patterns of gait, we launched a couple of new gait programs to help with some very specific gait challenges. Did I answer all of the improvement side? Hopefully, more to come.
Yep. And then there have been quite a few questions about the referral program. Do you want to touch on that, or I'm happy to cover it as well if you want to, either way.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Will you cover that one for me?
Yeah. So the referral program, I think one of the things that has been really so incredible about the Cyonic community is how all of you interact with each other and work together to make everyone's experience that much more. And so the collaboration and connection, I think, has been really amazing. And then, we're also always thinking about access. So how do we build the community? How do we make it more accessible? And so when you create your order, you have a referral code that gets assigned to you. And so if you want to see what your personal referral code is a 4-digit number or 4-digit code. It's in your account profile. So cyonic.com/account. And you have a 4-digit code that's just 4 letters. And if you share that with your community and they decide to order a neural sleeve, it's a give 50, get 50. So they get a $50 discount at the time of order. And once they've been onboarded, you will get a $50 credit in your account. Great. And then there's one question on the pricing, just what happens after year 2? Jeremiah, if you want to speak to that.
Sorry, what happens after year 2? Year 2 is year 2 and beyond. So those prices will change over time, to adjust for inflation, but be for all users, the all-inclusive option will be available, and then for our pre-launch and early adopters, a la carte options will be available past year 2.
And Jeremiah, 2 more questions. The first is, can you talk about what the extended warranty includes?
Yeah, the extended warranty covers warranty repairs. There's, specific language, but it's basically any wear and tear or issues related to the product. If they're, we don't see it frequently with our customers, which is great, but every once in a while, someone will say, I I had it in a place in my house and I ended up slamming the door on it. Our warranty doesn't cover damage that happens outside of the use of the product.
Great. And then a question, how many electrodes do you get for $40? Sets don't mean anything.
24 is a set. So one electrode gel pad for every electrode in the system.
Great. And then one question, are early adopters automatically enrolled in the all-inclusive option for year 2?
Yes, we will default to the all-inclusive package, but so you don't have to do anything if that's the package you want. If you want to switch to a la carte, we'll send you a note when your 12 months is up, just to let you know the 12 months is up, and there'll be an option in your account profile to make that change.
Great. Okay, so it looks like a lot of the other questions are specific to product or potentially to so SKU availability and questions about that, as well as questions about kind of accounts. So I think we can transition from the pricing topic for now. Again, if there's a question that wasn't answered, please do continue to submit it. But I think for now we can transition to the next topic.
All right.
All right, Domenico, over to you.
All right, thank you, Anne. So bit of guidance about cold weather care. Most of our customers live in a place where it's generally cold, and unfortunately, electronics and cold or rigid temperature, they don't really go well along. You can try, put your phone out and let it stay out for 15 minutes. When the temperature is really low, it will block saying that it's too cold. And so what are like some tips that we can use in order to avoid that like the neural sleeve like blocks or breaks because of the cold. So in general, as you can see from the user manual, like the sleeve cannot operate the control units itself, which is like most part of the sleeve, cannot operate under 40 degrees Fahrenheit and over 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is like the temperature that like the system gets like by itself. So like usually your control unit is right close to your leg, and like your leg like emits like heat. So like that temperature needs to consider also the heat that is emitted by your leg. But in general, we suggest in cold weather to wear warm clothes over the sleeve, because in this way you will protect like the control unit from being exposed to extremely harsh temperature. Most of the issue happen especially during a thermal shock. What's a thermal shock? So like a sudden change of temperature. You're inside, there are 50 degrees, it's nice and cozy. Go outside, there's like 10 degrees, 15 degrees. So like that strong change of temperature really impacts the electronics. If you wear something on top, that is like much dimmed. So like there are less chances that thermal shock like can impact over your control units. One of our customers that I usually interact with, he wears like a toe warmer inside the pocket with the control unit, and he lives like in an extremely cold place, and he didn't have any problem since he is wearing this toe warmer. Looks like it works. I'm not suggesting anybody to wear toe warmers inside the pocket, but just to say, like, any way of reducing like a thermal shocks and like sudden thermal changes helps a lot in maintaining your hardware fit. Becky, you can do this.
Sure. No problem. Sorry, I couldn't find my mute button. So taking care of your skin. And this doesn't just apply to cold weather, it's all the time. So dry skin is more susceptible to irritation. And so we recommend a nightly skin care routine. So moisturizing at night, so that the skin has a chance to absorb any lotion or moisturizer that is on the skin. You don't want to apply anything to your skin just before using the sleeve or donning the sleeve. It can impact the way that the current is transmitted through the skin to the muscle. 3 steps: wash with warm water, exfoliate, and again, moisturize in the evening. Hydration is also important too, so it's not listed here, but drinking plenty of fluids also helps for good skin care. Additionally, not mentioned on the slide, and I don't think it's on the other side, but there's always questions about shaving or hair. And so we do not recommend shaving just again prior to putting the sleeve on. Shaving can create little micro nicks, and any disturbance in the skin, the current will just go right to that little area and may feel kind of stingy. So again, recommend shaving the night before. If you don't shave and have leg hair that may be impacting the way the gel pads adhere to the skin, we recommend just trimming with safety scissors where on the areas where the gel pads are going to be adhering to your skin. Okay,
Great.
next slide.
All right. And here we go.
Back to technical. So your gel pads with cold weather. So gel pads, they don't really have any problem with cold weather. They actually like low temperature and nice environment and so on. But what you see will happen is that the adhesive on your gel pads will become like more strong. right? And so this like will make it harder to remove like what we call the liners. There are those protective one, not really the one that you use every day, but like the one that come into the package when the electrode is new. So you may see that like when you apply the electrodes and like they've been in the cold or the cold, you're gonna have like some issue like removing like the liner the first time you apply the electrode. So also there, like just simple like let them rest like before in regular temperature environment. They were 50, 60 degrees, so that they get like they're not like super cold, and that should like extremely simplify the removal of the protective liner when you apply a new electrode. As always, like in order to get like longer life possible from your electrodes, every time you store the sleeve, try to put it back into the large Ziploc that it came with, because the more the electrodes are exposed to air and oxygen, the faster they dry. And of course, like if they dry, then like they're less performant. So if you keep it inside like the Ziploc, fluffy as your bread, like it lives for longer because it's not exposed to oxygen, and that's like less oxidation and less chances that it dries out faster.
Just a quick follow-up question on the skincare for exfoliation. Either Becky or Domenico, do you want to describe kind of how we recommend exfoliating?
Yeah, I can. I can. I mean, there's many ways. You could, strictly just use like a washcloth and make sure that you kind of rub down the skin to remove any excess dead skin cells. There are many types of sort of exfoliators that you can find, like salt scrubs and things like that, that help remove sort of that outer layer of skin cells. So if you do see when you take off your sleeve that there's like dry skin or dead skin cells on the gel pads, that's one indication that you may want to start moisturizing. Also, you can use a drop of water on the gel pad to with your finger, just kind of remove some of that debris that's accumulated on the gel pad. So hopefully that answers the question. Domenico, if you have any additional comments.
No, I think that was like comprehensive. Yes.
Great. And then Domenico, just a few more technical product questions for you before we move on. So the first is we've had a few people asking questions about, as we're talking about the warranty, what do we expect the average kind of expectancy of and longevity of wear would be for the neural sleeve, kind of sleeve and components?
Yes, so let's talk about the warranty. So the warranty, as Jeremiah was saying, like covers any kind of manufacturing defects until the warranty is active. So like any issue that we can like correlate to our production and our errors in production, like during warranty, like your product that's repaired or replaced without any charge. What is not covered under warranty is accidental damage. So any damage that comes from either like out of specs usage or any kind of accident, like tearing the cable away during fall, or like hitting against like the control unit and smashing it. So those, unfortunately, are accidental damage and they're not covered. Just a note, like we have like a full explanation of all the warranty that is available on the website, like that you can always go and read, so that like you're always aware of like how does the warranty work. I know that like nobody likes to read those documents, but sometimes it's important and it's interesting. And sorry, like the second part of the answer and the question was beside the warranty.
Yeah, just overall kind of life expectancy.
Life expectancy. Yeah. Okay, yes, life expectancy. So let's start with the control unit. The control unit has a pretty long life expectancy, like in the sense that there are like no moving parts. There's just a battery. So what you can expect is over 3 years of life without any problem. What you will see and that's unfortunately like with every device that uses batteries, is that your battery performance may degrade over time, right? Like because of their chemical nature, the more cycles you put on a battery, the less can store. But unfortunately, that's a limitation that like nobody still has been able to overcome. So what we guarantee is that over 300, like after 300 cycles, and the cycle is like a fully discharge, a fully charge, we can guarantee you that your battery is gonna still like store more than 80% of the capacity, right? And usually like a 300 cycles in general electronics are calculated like over 2 years. So that's the control unit. The sleeve is a different topic. The sleeve is a garment, right? So the life expectancy of the sleeve, most of the sleeve is fabric. And how long does a fabric can last? It depends from how many times you wear it and for how long you wear it. Like between the sleeve and the pair of leggings, there's really not much difference. So if you wear a pair of leggings like every single day throughout all the year, depending also like how you treat it and what you wear on top, it will change like the level of wear that can be on the fabric. So again, we have like sleeves that have been used for 1.5, 2 years without any problems. But we've seen sleeves where people like they really use it like every day and wear things on top and so on, where you can start seeing like the signs of the wear, and they're pretty evident. So there is no single answer here. Like it's given like the difference in usage of how people like use garment and how people take care of garment, the how long it lasts can change widely. But again, like we've seen like sleeve treated well and even used like pretty often that lasts like 1.5 to 2 years without problems. But it's unfortunately a very, very subjective thing.
Yeah, I think a pithy answer to that might be that the garment piece will last similar to how your other clothing lasts, and your control unit will last similar to how your cell phone lasts. And
right, thank you. That's a great way to explain it.
Especially within the garment itself, there's variability in person. And then there were a couple of other questions in the Q&A that are on this topic. I'll just touch on briefly. So there was someone asked about on the a la carte spare sleeve, spare control unit. So they said, well, the spare sleeve is only $400. I should clarify that sleeve, when we use it in that context, meant the garment, and then the control unit is $1,000. So those two pieces together are what a whole replacement product would be. And so the warranty covers both the control unit and the garment piece as well. And then there was one other question about, does the all-inclusive package include the warranty? Yes. So that was sort of the whole idea, was that by offering the all-inclusive, everything that you need to be successful, we try to include in one single monthly price.
Great. Domenico, just a few other questions for you. There was one question around technical improvements to the sleeves, and maybe it's worth taking a moment to talk about, there was a mention of rust on the buttons, but just to explain what that residue is that can turn kind of red, the gel residue. You can just talk about one, what that is and how to care for it, and then two, technical improvements to the product over time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start from the rust, which is not rust. And that's a question that comes out every single IMA where I was present, like I answered to this question. So the residue, the brown residue that you see on your electrode buttons is basically like a glycerin that and the glycerin is like a main component of the gel pads, that goes under a transformation when the electricity goes through it. The more electricity goes through it, the more you see that sediment. While it does look like rust, it's just sediment. So if you polish with a cloth, it will go away. Rust usually like it's not that easy to remove. And as we were saying, the more electricity passes through, the more you see that sediment. Most of the time, you will see that sediment on your tibialis anterior upper electrode, because for most of our customer, that's like the electrode that they use the most, because like they are trying to, work on doxyfection. And so like most of the electricity is used in that part, that muscle group. As we always recommend, every time you change electrode, please clean the button and remove any residue. Unfortunately, like given the chemical reaction, what happens is that if that residue keeps on sedimenting, it becomes non-conductive. And so there will be less electricity that can get to your muscle. If you nicely clean it, every time that you remove a gel pad and add a new one, you won't have any problem, and that electrode will always be able to conduct electricity and provide the maximum efficiency at the lower electric intensity, right? Because like sometimes we see people that they say, oh, like I need to raise my intensity because it's not effective anymore. One of the causes could be that the electrode is depleted, or that like the button has too much sediment on it. So like first thing I suggest, when you see that you really have to raise your intensity to trigger like a proper doxyfection, verify the electrode and verify that it is clean. There are other possibilities there, like placement, like alignment, but in general, the first thing I would look is that one. And otherwise, if it's not that one, please contact the support so that they can give you recommendation on, as I was saying, alignment and donning. There are also like some of the other causes of a weaker dorsiflexion. Going back to technical improvement, yes. So we do technical improvements all the time. So like, like in the life cycles of a product and the standard practice, you keep on trying to improve the product by, like changing slightly in architecture of one part, or like using like a different material, using like a different assembly technique and so on. In general, for every product, the product that you buy in a certain month is different from the same product if you buy it like on another month, because those improvements are always like folded inside the product. Now, what happens about the sleeving in January, and now we're in December. The sleeving in December, like it's better when there's any kind of exactly as it happens for the car. So you bring your car to the service. If there are improvements that can be brought into your sleeve, those improvements will be done. And same for us, like as long as you're under warranty, if like there's any issue with your sleeve, if you see that the issue is caused by something that at the beginning have been able to improve, then we will do that improvement on your sleeve, or it will be that you did with the sleeve that as an improvement. And that's why like warranty is so important, because it allows us to repair your sleeve and making sure that it uses that improvement. There are a set of improvements that technically are not able to be done on the product as it is right now, and usually those kind of improvements then like they're like the basis to start a new generation of products. So like there are, given the architecture, there are some stuff that we cannot do on the sleeve. We will use those learning when we start designing a new generation of devices and so on. So that's a bit like how improvements work into a product on the market.
Thanks, Domenico. And then a lot of questions about either petite inseams or extra small. Do you mind just addressing in general kind of future SKU availability?
Yes, absolutely. So like I know that we get a lot of requests from people saying, "Oh, you don't have enough sizes. Like my size is not available," and so on. I just want you to understand, like we do our best to accommodate as many sizes as we have right now. We like on our we produce like over 30 SKUs. SKUs is like every differentiation between one product and another. So like left versus right is a different SKU, and like a small, medium, large, they're different SKUs and so on. So like we have like 40, like over 30 different ones. So it's really like pretty challenging to deal with all these. For the sizes that we don't have available, usually there are technical limitations. So as I was saying, the sleeve is a garment, but unfortunately there's electronics integrated, and electronics needs like a certain space, occupies a certain space. Same thing for the electrode. The electrodes have a certain size. So unfortunately, every time that we try to scale down, we have to deal with geometry and with the space that all these parts occupy. The inseam limitation are defined by the fact that up until now we cannot go shorter than what we are, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to accommodate all the wires that run inside the sleeve, right? Like physically there wouldn't be space to position them. We are working, trying to optimize, like, like the size of the cable, how much space we use, like how the robot actually embroiders the cables inside the sleeve and so on, and all those optimization. I hope they're gonna bring us to overcome those limits and like be able to go over like the size list that we have right now. But I can assure you, it's not about will; it is about geometry, unfortunately. So like we're fighting here with physics and limitations of the physics. So like if we were for us, like we would do our best to accommodate all the sizes, but like we have to fight with physical limitations.
Domenico, just a couple more very quick questions. One is, do you recommend that we let the battery discharge all the way before recharging, or is there any issue with recharging it when it's partially discharged?
No, like those modern batteries, lithium-ion batteries, I must say they don't, differently from their previous generation, there is no need to make them discharge all of them. Actually, like when you discharge them all, it's actually not very positive, but no worries about that, because we stop the DC before the battery discharges, so you don't have to care about that. So don't worry about that. But there's no issue in charging when you just like stop using it, even though if it's not at like a 0%, like it doesn't matter. It won't impact the life of the battery.
Great. And then there was one question about in the winter months, all the static electricity that happens in your house. Is there any issue with that as you're walking with little shocks in the legging?
We do test for that. We actually like we have in our facility, we have like a gun that actually shoots like a static electricity that we use for testing that it doesn't impact. We don't have any up until now. We haven't had any issue with the static electricity, but like if you should find that there's any issue, we'll definitely like try to solve it and let you know. But we haven't seen any problem related to static electricity.
Great. And then there's one question about if you get a new control unit, do you have to totally start from scratch, or is the app already going to save your settings so you can just get going once it's paired?
Yeah, all your settings are saved in the app. So in the moment in which you get a new control unit, the only thing you have to do is to pair it to your phone, and then the settings will be exactly the same. I suppose like in this case, like probably like the customer was interested in, if I buy 2 control units, do I have to set up both? Yes, no, the settings are on your app. So like the app is gonna transfer, like when you start program, it's gonna transfer the setting on the control unit, independently if it's your old one or the new one. So no worries.
Great. All right. Why don't we I want to be sensitive to time. I feel like time always flies in these sessions, and we still have lots of questions, so more to come. But why don't we cover the next section, and then we'll take more questions. So Becky, over to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Mute.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks for reminding me. I just want to talk about some of the upcoming events and AMAs that we have planned this coming year, and also to get the audience feedback on informational sessions or AMAs that you guys would like to see. So we do have a 3-part exercise series already scheduled, and we'll be providing more information. And this will be led by Dylan and Adam, who are our exercise experts, our mobility specialists who have specific certification in exercise. And so that 3-part series will, you can attend 1 or 2 or all of them. They'll be focused on specifically the benefits of exercise for individuals with neurological conditions, exercise sort of prescription or schedules or exercise routines, modifying exercises. So how to use the Psionic protocols, exercise protocols. Most of them are in a seated position, but you can make modifications to that position. And they'll talk about monitoring fatigue, and sort of talk about exercise scheduling and things like that. So we have that scheduled for the first one beginning January 26th, and then the 2 Fridays following. And we'll provide more information on the specifics of each of those topics. And then additional upcoming AMAs that we have planned for this year. One is the metrics. So lots of questions on how to use the history screen. So giving information on what the history screen is, what metrics are given there, what you should be kind of looking at individually in terms of changes in your metrics over time. And then additionally, looking at the gait cycle. So when you have the muscles being stimulated, why are they being stimulated when they are, and what is the importance of that stimulation? So for instance, with the foot drop, when we stimulate the shin, that brings the foot up, and that is most effective really when you're swinging your leg through when you're walking. But so we'll break it down and talk about all of the 4 muscle groups, and how the stimulation impacts the gait cycle. We will revisit some of the AMAs that we did last year, including skincare and electrode care. So going into more detail about those. Donning for dorsiflexion. So that's the one muscle group that is specific for donning. And so we'll review that again. And then a new one in terms of performance is how to use the sleeve to correct for inversion. So inversion is when the ankle tends to roll inward and can create some ankle instability. So how do we use the sleeve for inversion? How do we use the exercises to create some eversion and ankle stability? How you may or may not want to use your AFO. And so that would be a new topic for this coming year. And then we also have a software release. And so when we have software releases, we will do an AMA to talk about the new features of the app, new exercises that are being released, and provide information about the new software release.
Great.
And there was a question about new software releases, and just sort of our target and our goals is to have a new feature release once a quarter. So that's we've been able to maintain that schedule in our first year, and we are working to maintain one new feature release per quarter in the coming years.
Great.
It looks like performance is I'm just looking at the the poll. So it looks like the performance AMAs are high priorities. So we can revisit those first before we talk about the metrics.
And just so everyone knows, we have hosted these sessions in the past. So we did a whole session around skin and electrode care. We did another one for donning for dorsiflexion. And there are a lot of questions in the chat in general about how do we clean the sleeve? How do we manage our electrodes? So a great resource for you as a starting point is to go to psionic.com/support. And in there, we have a range of topics with in-depth coverage on how to approach all of these different things. Within that kind of support ecosystem, we also have a live sessions page. So all of these previous live Q&As that we've done with our community were recorded and are posted there. And so if you want to go rewatch the skin and electrode care or the donning for dorsiflexion, I know that those 2 sessions in particular were really valuable for people. They are available for you to rewatch at any time. And then, of course, as always, contact support@cyonic.com. We're here for you to answer questions and make sure you're getting the most out of your experience. And then there have been quite a few questions in general around insurance and reimbursement. Jeremiah, I don't know if you want to speak generally to reimbursement.
Yeah, it is a question on everyone's mind, including ours. It's a long process, and we are working on it. I would say that I don't want to set any time expectations for anyone. We have people who have reached out, gotten good letters of medical necessity, have been able to get their sleeve approved. We've been working with the VA to get it reimbursed for veterans, and we continue to talk to people within the ecosystem to try to build that case for wide-scale reimbursement. I started my conversation around the pricing about the change we made in the model of pricing, and that was in part to try to get reimbursement for something that has traditionally not been reimbursed. And so this category has not been well reimbursed in the past. And I think part of that is because of that big upfront cost and the uncertainty. And so, all of these efforts help us move towards that. But again, I would look at the big news out of the exoskeleton space that came this month on Medicare. It took them 10 years to get from their initial product to a positive reimbursement decision. And it still comes with a lot of caveats. So the things you can do to help are obviously when you file letters with your payers, that helps a lot. If anyone is connected into policy and government, that can also help as well. And I'm excited for a day when this type of care is available and paid for everyone who needs it.
Thanks, Jeremiah. There were a few other questions about providing itemized receipts, either for people who want to claim the device on their tax return, or for people who need to file claims. So the answer is yes, absolutely. As always, contact support@cyonic.com, and they can help get you set up with the itemized receipt. And the same is true, as Jeremiah was saying, for the insurance claims. Each company has been a bit different, and so we'll work with you to make sure that we can provide the information that you need to get that claim processed. Great. And then Becky, I'll ask you a few quick kind of more medical questions. Questions around knee hyperextension and hip flexion.
Okay. Knee hyperextension. So our current algorithm doesn't specifically target knee hyperextension at the mid stance knee hyperextension. However, we do have customers who report improvements to knee hyperextension, whether it's just the improvement of the mechanics of walking or potentially quad strengthening. So there's some variability. It depends on what's creating the knee hyperextension. So even though the current algorithms are not specifically targeted to address knee hyperextension, we do often see improvements in knee hyperextension. The same can be said with hip flexion. So with hip flexion, those deep hip flexor muscles are very hard to target. So we do not target those with stimulation, but we also do see improvements. Our customers report improvements to hip flexion. Again, whether it's just an improvement in the kinematics of walking that help make that gait pattern more smooth, and the muscles of the quad and the hamstring plantar flexors are not working as hard, and so that hip flexor may be able to activate better. It may be a result of taking a longer stride that allows that hip flexor muscle to again activate a little bit better. So even though we don't directly target hip flexion, we do have customers who improve hip flexion. There was a question that came up earlier about using hip flexion assist devices. And so there are some individuals who use those devices along with the sleeve to improve their hip flexion while walking.
Thanks, Becky. We had a few questions in general around improvements people have seen, if there have been any reports of impacts to things like spasticity, but maybe can you just share a few of the user experiences high level?
Yeah, spasticity that's a good question. So we do also see improvements to spasticity generally with hip flexion and knee hyperextension and spasticity. Those changes occur over a period of months, most likely. It's not an immediate impact on wearing the sleeve day one that you would see those changes. It's with use and over time. And so we do have a lot of individuals who report improvements to spasticity, and as well as muscle spasms. So those two things can go hand in hand, but oftentimes with MS, individuals may have muscle spasms at night as they're starting, as their muscles are starting to relax. And so we do have many reports of improvements to both muscle spasms and spasticity over a period of time and use.
Great. And then we've had a few people talk about experiences that they've had with their neurologists or in physical therapy. So first, someone reported that they saw a significant improvement when they were walking with the sleeve versus not. So first, yes, please share any of those experiences you have with your doctors or with your practitioners. We love hearing that. It's really great data for us to see. So do please share. And then we are expanding our relationships with the clinical network. We've had a ton of interest. And so if you have a physical therapist who has questions, please do reach out to support@cyonic.com. We're developing materials to engage with this community, and we'll have other programs in the future. I don't know if Becky or Jeremiah want to say anything else on that.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. This is really exciting for us, actually, and it is all because of our community going to their care team, showing the results that they had, asking questions, that we have had this inbound interest. It has allowed us to launch our first clinical centers of excellence. And when we think about what the future of the highest quality mobility care, it is being able to use our sleeve at home and use it in coordination with physical therapy and with the providers. So this is really exciting. So we have now expanded. As of last count, we have 6 centers of excellence, and our big effort for us this year is to expand that program further. I like the person who said, my neurologist or I can't remember, PT or neurologist looked at me like I have 2 heads when I talk about this product. So yeah, if you want to introduce them to us, we are always happy to talk with them, and we get a lot of value back because those people who you work with on a regular basis who provide care to you will have an intimate understanding of you that we'll just start learning when we're introduced to you through the sleeve. So we're really excited to have those conversations. So please intro for us.
I just want to add too, if you are currently seeing a physical therapist, we highly encourage and recommend that you set up a session with your PT and mobility specialist. It doesn't have to be the whole session, but a small chunk of time so that we can provide information directly right then and there to your physical therapist, so that we can work kind of as a team and help kind of set up and guide you through the use of the sleeve.
Thanks, Becky. A few comments about how people reporting that their individual spasticity has improved greatly. We did get a few questions around how often should they wear the neural sleeve, and then we did have someone ask if they should wear the sleeve overnight, or can they wear the sleeve overnight?
I can address those. No, we do not recommend wearing the sleeve overnight. In fact, recommend wearing the sleeve up to 8 hours per day. That's the life of the battery, but particularly related to skin care and in irritation to the skin. So where the gel pads are, your skin is not, able to breathe, so to speak. And so it's important that you take the sleeve off, and probably not wear it more than 8 hours in a day so that you can allow your skin to breathe. If you're starting to see any skin irritation, and there's normal redness that occurs, and that redness should kind of disappear within a few hours. If you're starting to see any rash or raised areas or redness that is not going away, it's best to take a break from the sleeve until that starts to clear up. So so you do not need to wear it overnight. It's best used for walking or mobility anyway. And again, generally probably no more than 8 hours, and then give your skin a rest.
Great. There is a question, how often can we meet with our mobility team? Becky, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So everyone's a little bit different in terms of needs with the mobility specialist. So we do an initial onboarding appointment, which is set in an hour. And then we generally like to meet within that first week for a follow-up session. And then it's sort of as needed to feel like, to make sure that the individual feels comfortable using the device. We've gotten it into a good place where it's, effective. However, that being said, as you use the device, your gait may change. Your posture may change. You may feel like, hey, I might need a tune-up, so to speak. And so the mobility specialists are available for those follow-up appointments. So you can either use their direct link that you used when you did the initial scheduling, or you can reach out to support@cyonic.com and we can send your mobility specialist individual link. If you don't remember who your mobility specialist was or the person who set you up, again, just reach out to support@cyonic.com and we will connect you.
Great. I did get a question about, will there be an arm sleeve? Jeremiah or Domenico? Yeah.
Hopefully someday. We're always looking at how we can benefit this technology to more groups of people and more of the functions of their life. And so excited about that opportunity. And, just staying on the topic of the device itself, there were a number of people talking about extra small sizes. If you guys could please reach out to customer care, we are starting to demo that particular size. And if it is a right fit for you, we would like to spend some time with you. And then, I think that the sizing is always going to be something that we're looking at. And to Domenico's point, as we figure out some of the rules of physics and how to define them, we'll be able to produce new sizes. And I apologize that we are not yet fitting every body, but we're continuing to work on it.
Great. One additional question, just on the skincare. The top of the sleeve rubs their leg and leaves abrasions. How should we deal with this? Maybe to Becky or Domenico.
Domenico?
The top of the skin rubs. Can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, the top of the
Because
sleeve.
I'm trying to picture.
The top of the sleeve chafes against the leg. So there's just any chafing from any kind of contact point between the sleeve and the leg.
Is it up where the band is?
Yes.
I think, it's not clear that we have a good answer for that. I don't want to answer question. Please reach out to our customer care team. We'll see.
If you can please reach out and send some photos so that then we can we can see exactly where the issue is. So that'd be great. I don't want to do guesses because I love
that we're all like, how do we figure this out? Some of the things will take a little time.
We'll
try not to answer.
We try to tackle every single problem right away, but sometimes we need more information.
Yeah, if you're the person who asked that, please just send an email to support@cyanic.com with any additional detail, and we'll look into it. Another question, any problem flying with the sleeve and or batteries and electrodes? No, contact support@cyanic.com, and we will provide a copy of your prescription as well as an info card with details about the sleeve for TSA, as well as a link to, there's a disability notification card. And so we recommend carrying all three. Often people won't necessarily even need all three, but we want you all to be prepared as you enter the very busy airports across the US and beyond.
Yeah, and Domenico, maybe that's something that we can get up onto their customer profile. So if they need it, they don't have to reach out to customer support. They can just go download those things.
Yeah, absolutely. We can. I think like we have like a one Q&A with the links to this material, but if not, I'll make sure that is the.
Yep.
I mean, some people have just purchased like last week, so they may not have seen that AMA. Oh, and someone asked what AMA. Ask me anything.
Yes,
that's what
AMA asked
AMA
me anything.
Ask me
That's
anything.
I had to learn it myself.
One more question, just maybe Domenico, you could provide general guidelines for the longevity of a single set of electrodes and how you know when it's time to change.
Yeah, general guidelines for longevity of the electrodes. As I was saying, the most important thing is like proper skin care, because like the electrode life and transmission of electricity depends from the surface. So if the surface gets dirty, or if the surface gets sediments from the skin, then it's gonna last less. So first thing, like skin care. Second thing, like storage. When you remove the sleeve, first thing to do is to apply like the storage liners. There are those cover in the same fabric with like one side in plastic. Apply them as soon as possible. The least time, the less time that the sleeve spends in contact, the electrode spends in contact with oxygen and air, the more those electrodes will last. Third thing, after you applied your liners, fold the sleeve and put it into the either the Ziploc that we send you the sleeve in at the beginning, or any Ziploc that is like fitting the sleeve. It doesn't need to be like any kind of Ziploc. I think like probably in the two quarters are the long ones. The sleeve fits in that, like store it in there, because like again, like it gets isolated from the oxygen, and the electrodes deplete less fast. So I think like those three steps, they will give you most of the electrode life that you can. For when it's time to change the electrodes, it's a long discussion. Like I suggest there's a full recording like that in customer care in cyanic.com/support. I suggest you watch that, because there's so many things to consider, and it's like it's nicer to have like a better knowledge of how those how the electrodes work, and I think like that recording is extremely insightful.
Domenico, a question, could the electrodes be smaller?
Yes, you can answer that.
We've been working with various vendors to try to get a smaller electrode. Our current electrode vendor will not support a smaller size yet. So stay tuned. We'll keep working to try to get those especially for the smaller size sleeves, where we want smaller size sleeves, smaller size body, smaller muscles. We want to be able to target those very specifically so that we can get the best performance out of them.
Yeah,
thanks.
I just want to add on the topic of electrode, because I know that we receive requests every time about hypoallergenic material. We are working on trying to figure out if we can produce hypoallergenic electrodes with the electrode manufacturers. Some of you are actually involved into this discussion, given that you've been testing some additional material. It's something that we are actually working. It's not very fast process, unfortunately, all these manufacturing process are. But just I wanted to let you know that is an active, there's an active work on that side.
Yeah, and I saw someone called out in the chat that their lower leg electrodes deplete faster than their upper leg electrodes. Is that normal? Likely normal. With the lower leg electrodes, especially the dorsiflexions, the ones that lift the foot, they're on for longer during the gait cycle, so the amount of time they're on is longer. And typically, and it again depends on the individual. Typically, they're at a higher amplitude, and typically you're using fewer electrodes. So when we think about that array of electrodes, when fewer of those electrodes are being active, and it's a higher current for a longer period of time, it's the electricity that is actually depleting the electrode. So that's normal. And some people, when there's a high discrepancy, will just change out those electrodes that deplete rather than changing the whole set at a time.
There have been a few questions about what should we do if the sleeve no longer fits properly due to weight gain or weight loss? Will a new one need to be purchased?
Reach out to customer care.
Great. And then there's one question, and maybe Becky, this would be for you, but what are the most common occurrences that cause people, that make people realize that the sleeve may not be a fit for their mobility?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So one of the number one reasons is that there's just not an effective contraction. So kind of depending on the diagnosis or whatnot, particularly for the foot drop, if we're not able to achieve any contraction at all, or it's just not enough to counteract that foot drop. We do have some individuals who just don't particularly tolerate the sensation of the stimulation. But however, we generally try to kind of build up if a lot of people are sensitive to the stimulation, so we generally start at a low level and try to build up. But there are just some people where it's just the nervous system does not take to the sensation of the stimulation. There are some individuals who and this is a very personal decision. It's sort of what do you hope to get out of the system? We do encourage people to use it over a period of a couple months to see what the full benefits are, but it's kind of a cost benefit analysis in terms of what the expectation is from the customer if it's meeting the goals that they have for their mobility.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Becky. We understand this is not an inexpensive product. We put a lot of cost and energy into making it what we think is the most advanced mobility solution. And if you're not getting what you need out of it, it's certainly why we put that pricing model in place, so that you don't pay, you're not paying all of the cost just to try it, right? And so what I'll say, and Becky, stated this, but depending on sort of where your mobility at, it does sometimes take time. Sometimes for some people it's instantaneous, they put it on and they report immediate results. I don't want people to get discouraged if that's not their experience, because we also have people who said it took about a month or it took about 6 weeks before, one, I was able to build up some strength in the muscles that hadn't been used for a long time. Two, especially when someone has had, maybe been caught 20 years post-stroke and have developed compensations in their gait where they're relying on that tone. It can take some time to break through. But again, we're here to work with you on your mobility journey, and we've set it up so that if it's not working for you, we don't want you to have to continue to pay.
Thanks. A few more questions on the cold weather, Domenico, for you. One, and actually they're both kind of the same, which is it specifically the control unit that they should really focus on in terms of the warming versus or the whole sleeve?
Yeah, specifically the control unit, I wouldn't totally discard like the sleeve itself, but like most of the electronic parts and high voltage is inside the control unit, and that's the one that is more subject to possible breakage due to thermic shock or sudden exchange in temperature.
Great. Jeremiah, a question for you about the adaptive algorithms. So one person talks about, the upper leg gets a small pulse and amplifies the pulse in the lower leg. How does the AI, how does the system know when to pulse the different muscle groups coordinated to the gait sequence?
Oh my gosh, I'll give you the brief answer, and maybe we'll have to have another longer AMA. So one of the things that we can do with our sleeve is we can record the muscle activity through EMG and record the kinematics, the orientation of limbs in space. And so when we're developing these programs, we will put our sleeve onto individuals with neurotypical muscle firing patterns and record their movement. So we can create this corpus of data that maps the muscle firing to the movement of the limbs. And so by recording that across a large number of people, across a large set of activities, gait speeds, et cetera, then we can basically train the system to it's basically reversing that pattern, right? Knowing where the limb is in space, we know which muscle to fire at which time. So, you've heard things, talking about the adaptions. It's really about adapting to different gait speeds and different positions, like walking upstairs, etc. And just because I saw it flow through the chat, and it's also equally as nerdy, what does psionic mean? When I started the company, I was like, oh, what are we trying to build, right? We're trying to build a system of devices that read your mind, right? Read your intent, cybernetic, and enhance it bionics, cybernetic bionics. So that's the origin of the name psionic.
Great. There's a question, maybe this would be for Becky. Are you able to wear the sleeve with the electrode on a bruised area? So somebody has a bruise, is that okay?
I would say reach out to support@psionic.com so we can assess the bruising. Generally, it's more of a concern if the skin is open. So if there's a cut or a nick or something like that. And I think I saw something through the chat. You can put a little bandage over that area. However, if you're fully covering where the gel pad is, you'll receive an error because the gel pads do need to adhere to the skin. But yeah, reach out to us at support@psionic.com about bruising. Always good in general. If you guys have pictures to send in related to skin or things like that, so we can take a look at it.
Great. One question for someone who primarily uses the sleeve for dorsiflexion. Will there be a way to bypass or short the thigh electrodes so they don't use those electrode pads on those muscle groups?
I think the question is maybe I expect that if they aren't using them, that they're not active. And so probably the question is there something that they can put in the place of the electrode gels? We don't have anything right now. The electrode gels themselves help to keep the sleeve in place. So not as of now.
Great. Okay. Let's see. There are just people asking, if they're doing something like they're on an elliptical for 10 to 12 minutes, is that okay to wear the neural sleeve?
I think that's a different question maybe than is it okay to wear? It's certainly okay to wear. Is it going to help with elliptical? No, we have that in the queue of requested exercises that people would want to do. And so we're looking at whether we can develop a successful algorithm for assisting through elliptical.
Becky, one question for you. My quad is numb. Should I turn off the electrodes there?
Not necessarily. We do take precaution when someone doesn't have sensation. We certainly don't want to turn up the intensity so high, especially if you're not feeling it, but it does not preclude you from using stimulation on your quads. Again, good to check in with a mobility specialist to assess if needed.
And then Becky, just a few more. One in terms of, let me see. So the situation for those of us who are functional walkers, but could use the stimulation when weakness or fatigue sets in.
Yeah, that's a good question too. So we do have individuals who may not show or kind of exhibit gait impairments until a certain period of time or certain time or distance of walking. And so oftentimes, if they're intending to go for a walk, they'll put the sleeve on, and there's a couple different ways you can use it. You can set it up at kind of a low sensory sensory level, and as the fatigue starts to set in and maybe some weakness sets in, just turn up the amplitude, or they set it and they just put it on pause until they sense that they may need some assist, primarily with dorsiflexion, and then unpause the device. So that is not an uncommon use. And speaking of the sensory level, we don't always set all of the muscle groups up to the motor level that contract the muscle. So a lot of people find benefit just from the sensory component of the stimulation, helping to create kind of a rhythmic pattern of muscle contraction. So different ways that we can utilize the stimulation.
Thanks. And then one more kind of technical question. I have to keep my intensity very low or it throws me off because I freeze up and it makes my gait choppy. Is this normal? Shin is always the lowest at 10 to 15, quad, hamstring, calf, 20 to 25.
Yeah, so that is not unusual. We often say more is not always better. So more stimulation does not always lead to a nice fluid gait pattern. It's really what is effective for the individual. So sometimes if you have the intensity up too high, I should say too high, to a level where your own muscle tries to kind of contract against that stimulation, or kind of a protective contraction, then yes, you may get more of a choppy gait where it's not as fluid. So a lot of, when you're setting up with a mobility specialist and learning, as you go for your own gait and your own sensitivity, is kind of fine tuning that to find that kind of sweet spot where it's high enough that it's effective, but it's not impacting the kind of the fluid movement of your gait pattern. So not unusual.
Yeah, and I think that's just if you're seeing things like that or seeing changes maybe in how your body is responding, always good. I mean, that's again the value of the mobility specialists and those teams is that they'll be able to follow along with you, help you maximize your experience with the sleeve and make sure you're getting the most out of it. And we actually love doing it. We love being part of your journey. And man, what a fantastic session. I mean, it looks like we've almost had 200 questions. I know we didn't get to all of them within this session, but thank you so much for joining, and we will attempt to get answers to you for the ones that we missed, either through email or through FAQs. But then again, never hesitate to reach out, and we've got a bunch of really exciting topics on the agenda, and I'm excited about the Dylan and Adam's session to see all of the different exercises. And again, a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to the next time.